This is Circa Ignem podcast number 009. We are pleased to welcome Mr. Jason Bettini.
Thank you.
Jason grew up in Madeira. He has two sisters and a brother. He was in discernment for the religious life as a priest with the Oblates of St. Joseph for 3 years. Discerned God was calling him to marriage, and he's been married for 20 years and has 5 children. And in 1.5 years, he'll be enjoying the retirement life
Amen.
From LEO, specifically California Highway Patrol. I heard Mass surrounded by those I loved, as I had been the evening before at communion, when Jesus had come into our hearts. Their sobbing was all I could hear. I did not cry at all myself, but as I headed the procession to the cloister door, my heart was thumping so hard that I wondered if I were going to die. It was a moment of agony which must be experienced to be understood. I kissed the whole family, then knelt for Father's blessing. He knelt down too, and he was crying as he blessed me. It was a sight to gladden the angels, an old man offering to God his child, still in the springtime of life. Then the doors of Carmel closed upon me. The 2 darling sisters, who had each been a mother to me, embraced me first, then my new sisters, whose devotion and tenderness are beyond anything those in the world can guess. My dream was at last realized, and peace flooded my soul, a deep, sweet, inexpressible peace, an inward peace, which has been my lot these 8.5 years. It has never left me, not even when trials were at their height. Everything here delighted me. Our little cell most of all. It was as though I had been transported to my faraway desert. But my happiness, I must say again, was a calm happiness. Tranquil, unruffled by the slightest wind, were the waters on which the little boat was sailing under a sky of cloudless blue. All my trials had found an ample recompense, and profoundly happy, I kept saying over and over again, I am here, forever now. It was no mere transitory happiness, no passing illusion of one's first enthusiasm. Illusions, thanks be to God, God's mercy, I had none at all. The religious life was just what I had expected. No sacrifice took me by surprise, though, as you know, Mother, the path on which I took my first steps was strewn with far more thorns than roses. That's from chapter 7 of A Story of a Soul by Saint Therese of Lisieux. So, Jason, why is that particular book so impactful to you?
First of all, just the title, A Story of a Soul.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's, it brings to light that we are God's creation, and we are called to live the way God desires us to.
Yeah.
And hearing St. Therese's life in the cloistered convent, and the struggles that she had, and yet she still offered all those struggles to God. And eventually, these nuns who didn't really like her, their hearts turned, and they became really good friends. And that is just the power of patience and prayer and love.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, it's interesting. Right. So further on in that chapter 7, she talks about how Mother. So she referenced to her right before I closed out. She literally is just on her ass like the whole time. She's just like, I don't even know why you're here. Like literally just like in her head the whole time. Like what? Like we don't even like why are like you serve no purpose. Essentially, like some of the things she's saying is just like, you're supposed to be, like cleaning those cobwebs, and you didn't even do it. And then all of a sudden you're out walking in the fields, and you haven't even done the work that you're supposed to be doing. Like, it's just as fascinating to your point. Like, she's just going through, like, right from day one, like, everyone's just like, you're not supposed to be here. What's going on?
But yet she knew she was.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's interesting hearing later on how the sisters didn't even know that she was annoyed with them on things, right? Like they didn't realize until her diary got released,
right,
that one in particular that I'm thinking of that was just like, wait, she treated me like her best friend, right. And yet she did not like me at all. I was like, wow, that's legit.
Keep your enemies close.
Exactly. All right, so we aptly named the not so lightning round questions. That's what we're going to dive into here.
All right.
So, what's your wake up routine like, Jay?
Well, I never use a snooze. I disagree with that. Wholeheartedly. When the alarm goes off, it's time to get up. I don't give myself extra time to lay there and contemplate. So right now, my alarm is set for 4:10 in the morning.
Okay.
I get up and just start getting cleaned up and ready for the day. Go downstairs, make some coffee, unless Katie has already made coffee because she gets up at 3.
Okay.
And
she's up at 3?
Yes, up at 3. She's preparing for her class.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so sometimes she has time to do the coffee, sometimes she doesn't, which is neither here nor there. It just takes a couple minutes. But I'll fix my coffee, and then off I go up to work. I commute for about 45 to 50 minutes up to Oakhurst. Okay. And when I get to work, I dress out. As you mentioned, I work for the California Highway Patrol, and people think that I get dressed at work or at home, and then I don't know if they think I take a patrol car home or what, but I don't want to drive in my personal car in uniform because I'm a target, right? So I get to work, and right now I'm the public information officer, senior volunteer program advisor, and school bus officer. So I just log into the computer and start with the grind on the computer. So that's pretty much my morning, and then pretty much stay at work most of the day.
Yeah. So are you? I think we were chatting about this recently, but is it still 4:10s? Have you moved to 8s? What's the current schedule?
It's all over. I'll find out tomorrow.
Well, that's why I was laughing, because I'm like, what's Newsom going to do next?
Oh, wow. Yeah. So currently I'm on 4:10s.
Okay.
And we just went to 4:10s this month.
Okay.
Before that, we were on the 980s. So we work a 9.5-hour shift. 5 days, 2 days off, and then work 4 days, and then 3 days off. So every other week you get an extra day off.
Gotcha.
So this month we went to the 4:10s, which is what it is, 4:10s, and 3 days off every week. Next month we'll stay on 10s, but then
who knows from there?
The first of the year we go back to 9s.
Okay, all right.
And we'll probably stay on 9s.
Oh, Lord, pray for us in California.
Right.
I'm intrigued specifically with you on this next one. So how many times have you been pulled over?
I don't know.
We're going to flip it around on you. How many times have you pulled people? No.
That I don't know either.
He's not keeping notches on his belt.
It's on the side of my car.
The number is greater than the stars in the sky.
Jason's like, there's not enough space on the car for me to mark the
I'm on the third car now.
CHP's like, why are all these scratches in the side? I don't know.
A funny story. It's been a while, probably 2 years since I've been pulled over.
Okay.
And prior to the highway patrol, I was pulled over once.
Okay.
And it was actually on my way to the written test, physical ability test for the highway patrol.
Oh.
Ran a red light.
Okay.
I wasn't quite sure where I was going, so I had directions. This is before GPS. Had directions on my seat in the car, and I looked down at the directions, and when I looked up, the traffic light was yellow, and I thought, if it just turned yellow, I could make it. But it didn't just turn yellow.
It had turned red already on you.
So it turned red before I hit the limit line. I looked to the left, and there was a Fresno PD officer coming out of the parking lot. And I said, well, I'm had, so I'm just going to pull over.
Yeah. And you just said it's over.
Self-surrender.
Yeah, there's no fight in this one.
I think that saved me because he chewed me out, said it wouldn't look good with my recruiter if I had a ticket. I agreed with him. I didn't have a recruiter, so
you're like, okay.
But if I did, it wouldn't look good. And so he let me go. And then after I graduated from the academy, mostly I was pulled over for speeding.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
okay.
Yeah, and I
getting to and from work, is that what it was?
No,
just speeding.
No, because in the beginning I was like 3 minutes from work. This is where I live. So
gotcha.
There were days that I would walk to work.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
gotcha.
But just going elsewhere, Katie and I were looking at moving up north in Northern California, and so we running a little late. We had our firstborn. He was, gosh, I would say maybe 6 months or so.
Okay.
And we were going to meet a realtor up in Redding to show us around, and we got a late start. Okay. So I was just playing the game, trying to beat the time.
Just trying to hit it. Okay.
So I think I was doing about 90 miles an hour and going through woodland, and there's a curve on I-5, and I see a highway patrolman on the shoulder, and his brake lights come on. Mm-hmm. So I'm used to it. So I self-surrendered.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And
it's going to play out better for you if you're just like,
It does, yeah. And he didn't even get off the shoulder. He just kept driving on the shoulder to catch up to me. And I gave him my license and ID, and he didn't say a word. Just gave it back to me and walked back. And Katie goes, "Wow, you even get pulled over fast."
That's awesome. She's like, this works. You're like, take notes, honey. Take notes. Yeah. All right. Anything else? Anything of note in that vein of questioning for you?
There was one story that it kind of irritated me. Okay. And I was, after this experience, I swore I would never ever treat anybody this way, regardless of their line of work. Yeah. In a lot of work, people have some benefits, right? Yep. You work in the restaurant, you get free meals at your break, right? Yep. Yeah. It just so happens that other law enforcement don't really care to write tickets to other law enforcement. Sure. Yeah. And so my buddy and I, we both had motorcycles. His parents had moved from Mariposa, San Jose. They had a house in Mariposa, but up to Oregon. Okay. And we decided we were going to help them move. And so we jumped on our motorcycles, left Napa, and headed up to Oregon. Okay. And we were there for maybe 4 days, I think it was. Okay. And on our way back, much like that area, that Pacific Northwest, it was a little rainy. Okay. So we put on our yellow rain pants, and I had a Gore-Tex jacket, and hopped on our motorcycles and headed south to head home. Mm-hmm. And as we were leaving Portland area, we were doing 84 miles an hour. I know that because I looked twice at my speedometer. We saw 4 Harleys in the center divide, and both of us thought the same thing. It was like, oh, they're troopers. And we slowed down, and we're like, oh, no, it's just a Harley group. So that we sped up. We're like, oh, no, it's troopers. Oh. And as we passed them, they pulled out. Gotcha. And so we pulled over to the right shoulder, and so there was 4 of them. I get, for lack of a better word, the asshole. And my buddy gets the 3 nice guys. Okay. Wait, 3 on 1? Why would they be putting 3 on 1? He's a lot smaller than me, too, so I don't understand. It's like maybe 2 of you just stay back, just chill out. Yeah. You're just moral support at that point. Right. So the trooper that was with me, he said, "Do you have any weapons on you?" And I said, "Yes, I do." Okay. It's in my leather jacket, which was inside of my Gore-Tex jacket. So I was like an ogre. I had layers. And I said, "It's in my right pocket." Okay. And he goes, why do you have a weapon? I said, "I carry it when I'm off duty." Yeah. He goes, "Off duty, we'll see about that." I said, okay. My backpack is right there on my motorcycle. My wallet is in the small zipper. I give you permission to open it up and pull out my ID. So he throws me in handcuffs.
Oh.
Yeah.
This is getting spicy.
Right. They weren't even fluffy. So he takes my gun out of my pocket.
No rabbit skin on there? He didn't bring out the fluffer? Sorry.
Hey man, how do you know so much about fluffy handcuffs?
Bro, this isn't about me. This is about Jason.
Oh yeah, you're not in the hot seat.
So he takes my gun out, and then he gets my wallet,
Okay.
and he pulls my ID out, and then he tells me, "Go stand over there with your friend."
Okay.
So I'm still in handcuffs, and I walk over to where my buddy is and the three other troopers, and my buddy is literally holding on to his gun and going, "Feel how light it is," and they pick it up and
They're all taking turns.
"Oh yeah, that is pretty
And
light."
the other guy's got you in his freaking legit steel handcuffs, not
Right, the steel one, yeah. And so then Adam Henry, we call him, he came over and he said, "Well, we got a radio call of a motorcyclist on a purple motorcycle wearing a purple helmet doing wheelies at 100 miles an hour."
Oh.
And my bike was blue and my helmet was blue, so I mean it's close.
And you were going 84 miles an hour.
I was going 84, but I told him, I said, if I was doing wheelies at 100 miles an hour, it's purely by accident because I'm a new rider.
Yeah, you're like, I don't even know how to start with that.
They didn't have much humor, but I asked, I said, well, did the description say the rider was wearing yellow pants? And I looked at my pants because they were yellow, bright yellow. Reflective yellow, even.
So now you're being the asshole back to the asshole.
Maybe. Maybe.
Well played, Jason. Well played.
And he goes, well, no. And I said, okay, would you mind getting me out of these handcuffs? So then he tells his buddies, hey, get him out of the handcuffs. Oh, what I failed to mention is after they stopped us, the first thing they did was yank our keys from our motorcycle, so we didn't run away.
Couldn't run away.
Yeah.
So because law enforcement's totally going to just try and pull that on you.
Right.
Fellow, I guess, law enforcement.
So he gives me my pistol back.
Alleged.
Yeah.
Alleged.
Alleged. He gives me my pistol back, unloaded, and then my ammo in the other hand.
Okay.
And so I loaded it while he was still there because he missed the memo from George Bush that said that law enforcement could carry anywhere in the United States.
Yeah.
So then I put it back in my pocket, and then they take off. So my buddy and I, we go back to our motorcycles, and we go to turn it on. They still have our keys.
Oh, great.
However, there was the smart trooper who was in the patrol car. Never got out because it was drizzly, right?
Yeah.
So he was smart. He stayed in the car.
He's like, you guys are good. I'm getting here warm. He's probably drinking a hot cup of cocoa.
Right. So I wave him down before he takes off.
Okay.
So he seems annoyed already that I'm actually asking him to wait.
Yeah.
And I said, hey, man, your buddies took off with our keys. Can you radio them to bring them back?
Yeah.
And then he says, well, don't you have an extra set?
Wow.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So I said, yes, I do. It's in California. You mind giving me a ride?
Yeah.
And so he exhales loudly, and he goes, all right, I'll be right back. So then he leaves. We were there for an hour on the side of I-5 and just outside of Portland.
In the freaking rain.
In the rain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So...
good thing you had your Gore-Tex on.
Right. So I just hope they come to California and I could share the same professional courtesy as they showed me. I don't hold grudges, but I have a great memory.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You should tell me their names offline.
Right.
Because I know you know their names. All right. What is your greatest accomplishment to date? Or achievement? You take that Doesn't need to be accomplishment, but something. What's the greatest whatever it is that you're proud of to date?
I really, and I know we're going to probably talk about this in another podcast, but like you and I starting the Troops of St. George, it is something that spiritually I think I needed, and seeing the great success that it's had so far in just 2 years is pretty amazing, and because we started something that other dads were looking for, and I just think that was pretty amazing. Yeah,
and to your point, it's amazing how much other families, right, wives too, right, don't want to diminish the impact of the wives, but that desire for something like the Troops that isn't like the other organization that we always mention.
Exactly.
Right. That doesn't need to be mentioned because like Troops is totally different and authentically what it should be, which is Catholic in everything. Right.
Very Catholic. And what I really like is the aspect of a father-son program instead of a drop-off program.
Right.
Because really, I think having dads present in the lives of the children is so beneficial for when they grow up, that they have that fatherly nurture that in society a lot of kids don't have. So that's awesome. It's always stuck out in my mind in terms of that we had that conversation, and I think I've mentioned to you and Matt, Lieutenant 1.5 is his call sign. It's funny. I know that I have my role. I know that it's important, but I always like Matt handles so much, you handle so much, and I'm kind of I feel like it's this trinity. Because I'm like the Holy Spirit that's just like, maybe we should do this. And you guys are like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And we run with it. And then I'm like, but what else am I doing? We wouldn't have the ideas without you.
That's true. It's a good place to be. Awesome. I feel like it's a good like balance for me in terms of having influence and not necessarily authority. I leave the authority to you.
I think we make a great team.
No. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing. What is your greatest struggle with being Catholic or with life in general?
That is, since I've been listening to the podcast, that has resonated with me. And it's like, what is my greatest struggle? And I think probably at episode 6, I kind of figured it out.
Okay.
And as many of your guests have said, sin is just, that's the struggle that we all really have, right?
Yep.
But when I do fall into sin, the struggle I have is feeling worthy to ask God for help.
Yep.
As a sinner. So there are days when I go, well, I don't know if I should do my rosary.
Yeah.
But then I get a message on Instagram, Facebook. I'm like, first fruit said, there it is.
Yeah.
So even though I feel I'm not worthy, I still push through.
Yep. Yeah. You're not alone. That's the main, every one of us here, like that has deeply resonated. And I think it's a lot of what we talk about at Troops. It's a hard thing as a man to rely on others, right? We want to be this island. We want to be this rock. And the reality is that we're not actually going to understand who we are as a man unless we rely on the rock, right? Jesus. And part of that, I think the beauty is that I heard something today from Pints with Aquinas. Shout out to Pints with Aquinas. That God's given us this beautiful, beautiful gift of needing each other, right? And yet the devil wants us, again, very much why this podcast started. The devil wants us to keep trying to do things on our own, because he knows that if we continue to not rely on others, that we're not going to recognize Jesus in others and have metanoia, meaning change. We're not going to be changed and return to him. And it, like, to me, it's just, it's super, I know it's hard. Like, you got really emotional there, but I like really, really sincerely, I'm more and more convinced, and this isn't to diminish the great saints that we have that have gone before us, but all saints did was they just kept getting back up.
Right.
That's literally all it was. It's exactly how you explained that 410. There's no snooze button. For a saint, it was, there's no throwing in the towel. It's, I have to trust in God's mercy. Otherwise, this is all for naught. Right? Like, there's no mission, there's no purpose in why I'm created, why I'm put here, unless I continue to go back to Jesus, go back to his church, and receive, mercy.
Absolutely. And just getting back, I think what Rick had mentioned on the podcast, one of the Teresas.
Can we get Jamie out here to clarify?
Oh, she's about to throw down with an elbow.
Which one we're quoting?
It's Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa and the dry spell that she had, right?
45 years.
But yes, that's probably more than a spell.
I was like, way to make that a little smaller than it actually is. A few decades.
Something light.
Made an anthill out of a mountain. That's what I did. Just how she just kept persevering and pushing through, even though there wasn't. Maybe she didn't have that connection, right? But still, and this is how I see it, as we all do, is right when we sin. I get knocked down, but I get up again.
Yeah.
The devil's never going to keep me down.
Yeah.
And as long as you have that outlook, it doesn't mean that if you're feeling that dryness, that God isn't there anymore.
Right.
Right. He's still there.
Yeah.
And it's a lesson that he wants us to have.
Well, any great relationship requires us to spend time, right? And with Jesus, we've got eternity, right? Both here and in the next life,
right?
And what better way to reflect on that in terms of that? Okay, just like in our marriages, just like in our own relationships with friends, there are these seasons where it's like, man, these are such great people, and then all of a sudden you might not necessarily be in a valley, but it's just and it's not intentional. Most of the time, it's not intentional, but you're still friends. There just isn't necessarily that quote unquote warm fuzzy feeling, right? And then it takes time spent, continual time spent, and then you start to recognize, oh, I didn't know this about Jason, right? I wouldn't have known this unless I was actually spending time with him, which you do. And then over time, you start to recognize, oh, this is a cool thing about him, right? These are gifts or these are qualities. That's awesome, man. Thank you for being vulnerable. That's a hard thing.
Yeah, because I wear my heart in my sleeve, so when it gets emotional, it's hard to.
Are you being sarcastic?
No, I'm totally serious. Okay. I take it after. Or I get it from my dad because
Jim's awesome.
He is. He says it could be anything. Mateo drew him a little picture, and he'll look at it, and his nostrils flare because he's trying not to cry. It's like, come on, Dad.
And then he goes, these damn allergies.
Right, it's allergies.
No, I still remember when we all camped. Remember when he brought the side-by-side up to Wishon?
Oh, yeah.
And that was
Courtright.
Sorry, yeah, Courtright.
Yeah.
And this has actually been the case whenever I've been around him, is that he'll be talking, and it's actually funny because my dad's the same way now. I think there's something with age where the that toughness is just like that onion layer that you said, the ogre layer is just like completely gone on certain stuff. And so like you'll see it, like I saw it in his eyes. He started to get like misty eyed talking about, I think it was one of his grandchildren. Yeah. Right. And it seemed like this super like kind of normal thing, but because he has this perspective. Right. Like he has this perspective of recognizing I wouldn't have like there's a participation, right? Like there's a recognition of the beauty of life that even I would say you or I don't necessarily have appreciation because we're still quote unquote in it, right? Which we should legitimately, like that's a call to action for me on the daily for all of us is we should already be there, right? Just because we're in it doesn't mean that that's a cop out, right? Like that's it's hard. I'm not saying it's not, easy or that it is easy, but it's hard to recognize these super normal, mundane moments as beautiful.
Yeah, and as I get older, I could see myself being more emotional at things. If I watch TV, which I don't, I'd probably cry at the Hallmark commercials. Yeah, for sure. Because as I'm watching these videos of military homecomings, it's just like. There are times that I'm like ugly crying in the car or, whatever. It's just like,
I was, so this morning, speaking of mundane stuff, I'm sitting there, I have my, heart medication and a few other supplements that I'll take after eating a meal, right? And I put it down on the counter because I haven't eaten yet. And Bear's sitting there and he's like, what's that one? Like he's asking me, and he's seen these a ton of times, but he's like all of a sudden thinking, wait, there's individuals in there, right? He's always seen them as like this little bunch. So he points, because I take a little baby aspirin, like it's good on the heart program. I go, oh, buddy, that's a baby aspirin. And he goes, where's mommy aspirin? Jamie and I look at each other and we just start dying.
That's awesome.
Like it's this sincere, the baby's all by himself. Yeah. And I'm like sitting there going, wait, what? And then Jamie's like, oh,
that's awesome.
All right. I like this one. I feel like it draws out and kind of closes out the not so lightning round question. So why are you the way that you are, Jason?
God made me this way.
That's the ultimate answer. We got to take that question off. He just answered it.
He just ruined it now. He just hacked the code.
I like to joke a lot.
Okay.
And as you know, I
love it.
I have a lot of dad jokes, and people now, they don't know if I'm telling like real stories or if I'm telling them a joke. But I like it because it makes me happy. Yeah. And when I see other people happy, then I'm also happy. Right. And I've noticed that probably as a kid, my mom was a jokester. She liked to play all kinds of pranks, and if there was a big silence, then she would just scream really loud, and just to scare the crap out of you, and then she thought it was hilarious, right? Yeah. And I think I get a lot of that from my mom. Okay. My dad, he's always been kind of a quiet guy, and always working, so I'd see him in the evenings, so I hanging out with my mom a lot, and getting that from her, I think, kind of molded me to how I am, and being more jovial, and she always helped people. I was telling somebody at work, no, I'm sorry, it was last night at our meeting, at our troop meeting, that because we're going to go see the seniors at the Nazareth House, the senior living facility. And I said, when I was a kid, I remember this just very vividly, that my older sister and I, we would go my mom would take us to Madera Convalescent Home. And there was a lady there named Daisy. She was 101 years old.
Oh, jeez.
And we would probably go visit her maybe every 3 months.
Okay.
And just spend about 30 minutes to an hour and just chat with her and then be done. And then we'd see her the next time. And she was always happy to see us. Mm-hmm. And my mom used to take us to the like the Planned Parenthood, the abortion clinics. Mm-hmm. And we'd be out there with our signs. And my mom talked to this one expected mother and who was going to have an abortion that day. And she stopped her. So she ended up having the baby. And she struggled financially, this mother, and that's probably one of the reasons why she was trying to justify an abortion, right? She couldn't afford the baby. Yeah. But my mom would go shopping and just drop off a bag of clothes and diapers.
Awesome.
Christmas time, we grabbed a Christmas tree and
brought it over. Yeah.
She didn't want any credit.
Mm-mm. That's the Christian thing to do.
Just drop it off, and we would leave.
Yeah.
Before she could see us,
That's awesome.
So, see, this old age, I get emotional about everything. This was like 44 years ago. So, oh man. But anyway, I think just having that experience with my mom is kind of how I see myself today. Mm-hmm. Wanting to help others. That's why I joined the Highway Patrol, is to help other people. Yeah. And I enjoy it.
Yeah. But there's a joy there. Right? And there's a joy there.
There
right?
is, yes.
Yeah. That's it's always awesome walking away from time. I'll be very sincere with you in this conversation when we spend time together, like, Santa Cruz or even last night, right? Because it's like there's you have such a gift of being able to retain, so many different jokes or so many like little, vignette stories that end up being really funny. They're not actually true, right, but your face, like, you're like, oh, this is a real story. And then all of a sudden you reach the end and you're like dying laughing and you're like, that wasn't even true, but he remembered this whole thing to arrive at, me laughing.
Right. Yeah. I keep all those stories in my database.
See? All right. Thank you for sharing. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
And then we'll be right back. Hey guys, Eli here from Circa Ignem. Hope you're enjoying this week's guest so far. Just want to take a quick second to invite you guys to join our online community on Instagram. We'll be sharing wholesome Catholic content, and you can always stay up to date on the latest news and episodes. Please share with all your friends. All right, back from the break. Jason's good, got his water. No pipe or cigar. It's kind of weird, bro. Sorry. All right, first part of the second section. Where were you born, Jason?
I was born in Visalia, California.
Really?
Yes.
I did not know this.
Yes.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Kauai?
Was it...
Trying to remember if it was Kauai Hospital then. 44 years is pretty old.
Are there two? Are there two? Well, I'm 48. So I am much older than what you thought.
48.
48. Maybe I'm thinking of the church, St. Mary's. I think that's where I was baptized.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
2 weeks after I was born.
Okay.
Wow.
So what's the first? So you're born in Visalia. And then your parents lived pretty much in Madera, right?
Yes.
Whole life?
Lived in Madera, like in the city of Madera, right across the street from Jefferson Junior High, I think it is. Mm-hmm. Lived there until I was in 6th grade, and then my parents built a house out in the country.
Gotcha.
And we moved out there. My dad just sold that house last year. And moved to Texas.
Yeah.
Yeah. After I moved from Sacramento area closer to home to be near family.
He said,
He goes,
peace.
peace out. My brother lives in Texas, so I know who his favorite is.
I love you, son, but I'm out. What's your earliest memory growing up?
My earliest memory is I was probably about 4 or 5, and my mom and her cousin we would go on bike rides all the time.
Okay.
And so her cousin had a child. She's probably 6 months older than me.
Okay.
And we would be in the bicycle seats in the back, and we would always race each other, even though our parents didn't know we were racing.
In your minds, you're like doing the Jedi mind tricks with your parents.
It's like, I'm winning. It's like, no, you're not. Clearly, our tire's in front of yours.
You're doing like the chariot race.
Yeah,
like,
right.
Come on, Mom.
You have a little pinch to motivate. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and then right after that, my next memory would be when my sister was born.
Oh.
Yeah,
Wow.
I remember going to the hospital.
Awesome.
We're 5 years apart, so
Okay.
I was
So
5
you were 5.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
Not like Father Michael. I don't remember my birth, so
Yeah. He doesn't either.
The Immaculate Birth.
yeah. Thank God.
And then there was light.
Right. Yes.
So, share a few stories around, some of your favorite memories, or maybe not so favorite memories, right? But just stuff that really sticks out to you in terms of those formative, like early, so from 5 up to whenever.
Oh, well, actually, there's a memory. I don't think this is formative, but my mom was 8 months pregnant with my sister, and we took a bus ride, I think it was Greyhound, down to Mexico.
Okay.
Well, San Diego, I guess it was, because my aunt was living down there, and my mom went to go visit. And I remember having to use the restroom, and so I go to the back of the bus where the restroom is, and then I couldn't figure out how to unlock the door.
Oh.
And so my mom is freaking out.
Yeah.
She's yelling at the bus driver to stop. I could hear her yelling. And she thought that there was a button in the bathroom that was going to make the floor fall out. Pretty reasonable.
That makes no sense whatsoever.
No, it doesn't. But she thought that was her reality at the time.
Yeah.
But she was also 8 months pregnant.
Okay. Yeah. So rationality was kind of out the door on certain things.
Yes. Yeah. So finally I figured it out. Got the door open.
Okay.
And after the door was open and I started walking to my seat, the entire bus broke out in applause. Felt like a celebrity. Not really, but
We made it.
we made it.
I
yeah.
broke out of the bathroom.
As I was growing up, I do remember my first communion. I don't remember. Well, I guess it was at St. Joachim's is where I had my formation.
Okay.
I went to St. Joachim's, really kindergarten through high school, because San Joaquin Memorial is actually St. Joachim, but in Spanish.
Gotcha.
And so I did St. Joachim's for 13 years.
Okay.
I do remember when I was going to confirmation class, my mom was one of the instructors, the teachers for that. And I think at the time, my brother was very little, so we were 17 years apart.
Okay.
And no, maybe it wasn't my brother. It was my sister, my younger sister. She had these Christian cassette tapes.
Okay.
And we would listen to them all the time in our van. And my mom thought it would be a great idea to share these wonderful songs to the confirmation class, and asked me to stand in front of everybody and sing my heart out. So that was fun.
Very humiliating as well.
A little bit, but in the beginning. And then I quickly invited my cousin,
Nice.
who I used to beat in the bicycle rides. And and then another friend of ours to come up because they all knew the songs because they heard it all the time. from
Who was it? Do you remember? Like, was it a music group or what?
Gosh, I can almost see the cover, but I can't read it.
Well, just sing it for us. We can probably figure it out.
All right.
There you go.
You must become just like a child to enter the kingdom of God. No, that's surprising that I remembered it.
I didn't think you'd actually do
I'm
it.
not at all shocked right now,
I don't
Jason.
sing it. I don't sing it all the time.
Jason in his car driving up to work.
I sing my heart out. This is for you, Mom.
His kids are like, Dad, you're singing that song again.
Yes.
It's the sirens.
Oh, right. We have a PA system. Yeah, I could let all the Oakers know. They sing along now. It's like a musical up there in Oakers. Everyone's dancing.
Edelweiss. Anything else in terms of like childhood, that sticks out to you or that you want to share?
Well, I do remember, and it could have been that we didn't have a lot of money, so we did a lot of camping for vacation.
Yeah.
But those were really the best times that I had because for my birthdays every year, it usually fell around Memorial Day. The date stays the same, but Memorial Day kind of fluctuates, right? But my dad,
I knew where you were going with that.
my dad would take me and a bunch of my friends from school up to Gray's Mountain.
Okay.
And we would camp for the weekend.
Nice.
And we would play ditch 'em. So during the day, we would go out and just set traps in the forest.
Nice.
Dig holes and cover them with twigs and
Nice.
such.
And never reset them. So some poor
Never
soul
reset.
comes behind you. And
Well, the idea was during ditch 'em at night when we were playing with our flashlights that the other team would get trapped in them.
Yeah.
Right, so we didn't have to worry about setting or tripping the traps before we left.
not all of them were ever
Right.
used.
There's one out there still right now.
Yeah, for sure.
It was fine. We tied ropes between trees, and
Nice.
as we were getting chased, we'd jump over the rope because we knew it was there, and then we'd see a flashlight fly through the air.
Nice. Yeah. High five.
Well, one year, my dad, one of his friends, so it was my friend's dad. He had a couple 3-wheelers,
Okay.
and so he brought those for us to ride around, and I didn't know what I was doing. I was just a little kid, but my dad thought it was be okay for me to try it out by myself, and so I didn't know how to stop.
Right.
And I was going down the hill, and my dad's friend Rick is a big guy,
Okay.
like a brick house. He didn't even budge when he stopped that thing coming down the hill.
Oh,
He
geez.
just grabbed those handlebars and
Just stopped it.
just stopped it dead in its tracks.
Wow.
I thought I was going about 50. I was probably only going 5.
5?
Yeah. But it felt really fast.
Yeah. And he seemed like a hero because he
Yes.
stopped you.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome. But we did those quite a few years, maybe about 5 trips in all. And I think those were my best times growing up because those were it's an awesome birthday party. I didn't care about gifts. All I cared about was getting out in nature and camping and swimming in the waterfall there, and it was just pretty awesome.
Yeah, I totally resonate with that because that's exactly our situation. Like every possible memory. That's why like camping. Like whenever we go, like this is my jam. You
Yes.
know, it's like there's just a purity to it that you just can't replicate. You
Right.
know, and there's something about that it's bringing out. For me, I'll just speak for myself. It's bringing out that like. You have to like. There's a that. I know, like even camping, you're not necessarily surviving, but you get what I'm saying. Where it's like, no, we have to face certain realities in camping that we don't face
Right.
in a home, right? Like where we have central heating and air.
Yes.
You have to face certain realities where sometimes the wood doesn't start, so you don't have a fire,
Right.
and you need to just suck it up, you know?
And sometimes it gets to 34 degrees, and
Yes.
you just don't have the appropriate equipment to be comfortable.
Yeah. I don't have an extra 3 skins to just throw
Right.
over myself to stay warm.
Yeah, nobody's dying on these trips, but
No.
you wish that you were, because it could get pretty cold.
It does. But there's something about when you look back, it's still awesome because
It
there
is,
is.
yeah.
You're facing this reality of, man, that was fun. Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucked in the moment, but like looking back, you're like, that was challenging, you know, in a good way.
And you survived it,
Yes, exactly.
and you have a story to tell.
Yes, thank you. All right. Tell us a little bit about your parents.
So my parents, my mom was 19 when she married my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Funny story how they met.
Okay.
They were at a party, and now that I'm older, I realize that there was underage drinking at this party because my dad had a beer. I think he was probably 20 or 21. Maybe he was 21.
Yeah.
But my mom was not.
Okay.
And she was there with her sister and saw my dad and thought, I need to meet this guy.
Yeah.
And didn't have enough courage to go over there, so she says, I'm just going to go home. So she was heading home, walked by him and kicked over his beer.
Oh.
And that got his attention, and then they started dating. And
Intentionally kicked over his beer.
well, maybe the spirit did it.
Basically got his attention.
Encouraged her to kick over his beer. He didn't need that beer. So they got married in 1971.
Okay.
And the following year, so they were married in May of 71, and in October of 1972, they had their first child, my oldest sister.
Mm-hmm.
And they, gosh, at the time, I think they were both selling Miracle Made,
Okay.
the cooking
Yeah.
pots and pans.
Yep.
Now, they were one of the top sellers.
That's awesome.
In the nation. They won a trip to like the Caribbean, and my mom was always like an entrepreneur,
Okay.
always trying to find
Something new.
something new
Yeah.
to do. And at one point, she and her youngest sister started a cotton candy business,
Okay.
and they would sell cotton candy to different businesses throughout the Central Valley.
Okay.
And but they didn't make the cotton candy themselves. They had built-in workers.
Oh.
Can I just say I hate cotton candy today? I hate it. Hate it with passion.
Child slave labor. I love it.
The only thing that I liked about working the cotton candy is when they did give me a break. On my 5-minute break, there was a taco truck across the street, and my mom would let us get a couple street tacos, and they were the best street tacos ever.
Dude.
But
Gotta love those taco trucks, man.
that was a summer, and I just remember my arms being covered in cotton candy as I was spinning that thing. My mom had her own business. She started off wallpapering.
Okay.
And she was then known to be the best wallpaper in Madera.
Okay.
And 47th place, and Sherwin-Williams would recommend her to a lot of people. She did a really good job.
Okay.
And my dad
So selling and installing, or known for
just installing.
Okay.
Known for installing.
Gotcha.
And then my dad, he got a job as a gas serviceman for PG&E.
Okay.
And he and my dad's name was Jim. There was another gas serviceman named Jim. They both had Italian names, so ended in Eni. So they were known as the Zucchini Brothers.
Zucchini Brothers. Would they work together?
They did.
Okay.
They both worked in Madeira.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, there were 2 gas servicemen, and both were Jim.
Gotcha. The Zucchini Brothers.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I want to say my dad worked for PG&E for over 40 years.
Okay.
And then retired. I don't remember when he retired.
Yeah.
Maybe 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
And trying to think. My mom and dad were married for 36 years. My mom got breast cancer when she turned 50.
Okay.
And she fought it for 5 years, and then it finally took her. So
Okay.
she passed away 2 weeks after my son Dominic was born.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not beautiful, but beautiful at the same time.
Well, she said she came to the hospital to see him.
Yeah.
And that was towards the end. And so she was in a wheelchair. And she held him and she goes, "I've been waiting for you."
Wow.
Yeah. But, her funeral was very beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was at St. Joachim's, seats 1,400 people. It was standing room only.
Jeez.
Yeah. She touched a lot of lives.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah. But, so after she passed, my dad, about 3 years later, met another woman, and they ended up getting married. Okay. And not too long after they got married, she got brain cancer. And so they were married for 5 years, I think, and then she ended up passing. And when we went to the house, I think it was before the funeral, but we went to see my dad. Mm-hmm. And Katie tells the kids, "All right, now listen, don't talk about Barbara with Papa Jim. He's sad right now, so let's just talk about other things."
Yeah.
And so I think it was Julia. She goes, or maybe it was Dominic. It might have been Dominic because it seems like something he would say. He goes, "So, Papa Jim, are you going to get married again?" He goes, "Absolutely not. Absolutely not." So,
Mom, you said not to talk about
right. So, the kids just love my dad. He loves all his grandkids.
Yeah.
I think he has 15 grandkids, and I don't know, 20. He has some great grandkids and all that. So he's just living the life.
Just loving life.
Loving it. Yeah, just really loving it. Yeah. But my like I said, my dad last year moved to Texas. Mm-hmm. My brother he got married back in 2016, and almost 4 years ago, he and his wife had their first baby, and unfortunately, she passed away a week after.
Gosh,
she got an infection, and then that took her. So my brother raised his daughter Addie pretty much by himself, and did just a phenomenal job. She's a
firecracker.
Yes, a firecracker for sure. I mean, she is such a sweetie,
but a sweetheart. To your point, yeah. And
when he just needed to get out of California because I think just the memories here was not good for him, and so he moved away. And then my dad decided that he was going to move to Texas to be with him for support.
Yeah.
So I tease him, saying, I know who his favorite is, but
he's more responding to where the need is.
Yes, yeah. And that's just how he is. And it kind of goes back to why I'm the way I am too, right? Yeah. I don't want to discard my dad at all because, I am I have his genes just as much as I have my mom's. So he is very giving and loving, and to be there for his son is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
For that. So, so 36 years of marriage, and just a wonderful time. You know, they had their fights, but they sure did love each other, and you could really see that you know, when they're cooking together in the kitchen, and it's pretty awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah, good. They set a good example
for sure. They established what a mostly not dysfunctional marriage looks like. Yeah.
And part of the formation that they instilled in us kids, and you know, some of us took that formation and kept it, and unfortunately others did not. Yeah. But I remember gathering around at night and having a family rosary, and my dad just making it through the second decade before he passed out. But my mom carried it through. But it's a great experience, a good example, and I cherish those moments.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing. That was intense for sure. I've always thought, I shared this with Jamie after Barbara passed, that like, Jim, your dad God has such a plan, and has had a plan because of him having to go through both Maureen and Barbara,
right,
and having to walk with them in that, right? That is not an easy for either one of them.
No.
And I know my dad and my mom made many comments during both that were just like, Jim just like, he just carries it, you know, like, and carries it with grace and with class, and you know, like, there just wasn't, it was just a testament. Your dad was a testament through both of those, you know, trials.
Pretty amazing how God knows. I mean, obviously he does, but but he picks.
He doesn't need us to recognize it, but it's cool to recognize.
But it's cool, yeah. We recognize it for ourselves, not for God.
You're cool, God.
Did you know?
I know.
So what was adolescence like?
I remember when we moved out to the country.
Okay.
I remember when my cousins would come over, and during the summer they would stay with us for, you know, a couple weeks, and we'd ride our bikes throughout the neighborhood, and we'd find a house that was being built, and we'd go explore.
Nice. And
have our little battles, you know, like kids do, and dress in our camo gear, and just had a really good time. And my cousins, the same cousins who would come to our house, they lived on a dairy out in Riverdale, and in turn I would go over there and stay for, you know, a week or two. They had cool stuff. They had a go-kart that went probably about 30 miles an hour.
Oh yeah,
I just love that thing.
Yeah.
I remember they lived pretty close to the Kings River.
Okay.
And they had a doughboy pool that, for whatever, I think it broke. And so they just had that aluminum siding. And so one summer we built a canoe out of it.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty cool. And it floated. We got in it. We floated down.
I'm waiting for the punchline.
No punchline on this one. We got in the boat, in the canoe, and we floated down the river and got to our destination.
Yeah.
And it was too freaking heavy, and so we left it there. Wow. We weren't going to do it again. We proved the point. Hey, we could build a boat.
It floated.
It floated. It did not sink. That's success.
How did you get it into the river?
Well, my uncle drove it down in his pickup.
Oh.
Yeah.
And then just like...
And then let us have fun, and he went back to the house and
said, "I'm out."
And then and we walked back to the house because we weren't going to carry that thing. No. We made it with like 2x4s and then the aluminum, and I mean it was a big boat.
Nice.
But it was heavy. And then I remember too, because they lived on a dairy, there was a big field that when they cut down the trees, they'd have these big piles of brush.
Yeah.
And we go on the roof with our .22 rifle and try and take out the rabbits that were running from pile to pile.
Nice.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Never got a rabbit. We did get a garter snake. We cooked it up.
Nice.
Tastes like chicken.
Yeah. Yeah. Not very much meat, but it tastes like chicken. Yeah.
Put any kind of seasoning on it. It tastes like chicken.
Yeah, exactly. That's awesome. Yeah, so, do you have a lot of family that's in dairy?
So, my uncle worked on the dairy, but it wasn't his dairy.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. I get that symbiotic relationship.
Yeah.
I've met a number of people they live on the premises, and then they're maintaining and doing things on the property.
Right. He was more of like the equipment mechanic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it helps because he literally is jumping into his truck and at probably very random hours, fixing stuff up.
Yeah. And it was good for them because they lived in the owner's help house. I don't know what you call it, but so they didn't have to really pay for their house.
No,
because they're working.
Yeah.
So pretty fun childhood. A lot of adventures that we had, whether it was at my cousin's place in Riverdale or at our place in Madera.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I wonder if Father Michael knows any of the.
He probably does.
Family that you have out there, because I was like, that's a super small community out there.
He was in Carruthers, yeah. So, the Cardozas are the ones that that probably were out there when he was there.
It's such a small world, man.
It sure is.
Yeah. All right, let's dig into... you already mentioned a few siblings. Give us, like, the breakdown, oldest to youngest, and number.
So my sister Tina is the oldest.
Okay.
She is just turned 51 in October.
Okay.
And then there's me at 48. And then my younger sister Tiffany at 43.
Okay.
And then my brother is 31.
Okay.
So between my younger sister and him is 12 years.
Yeah.
But, growing up, my parents were... on the older side when they had Dominic, my brother. And I was 17, 18, 19. He was in the toddler time. And I wasn't going to let him get away with anything that I didn't get away with. So I felt like I was raising him as one of my own. You took
him under your wing because you had 13 years-ish.
We were 17.
17. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So.
And
you're almost a grown adult at that point. Yeah.
I was working at St. Joachim's Church in the evening.
Okay.
And after I would lock up the church and rectory, I would go home. And my brother was there waiting for me.
Nice.
And I'd sit in my dad's chair. My brother would jump on my shoulders, and we would watch Lion King every night.
That's awesome.
Until he fell asleep, and then I'd carry him to his room and put him down. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Tight relationship.
Yeah.
What a good brother, man.
Yeah, well, I always wanted a brother.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that was
my
like
sisters
an answer.
picked on me all the time.
Yeah. Come on, Jay. You got to defend yourself, dude.
Well, I know, but I didn't want to hit a girl.
That's actually a great segue. So, like, that takes a ton of maturity, right? Like, as you're at that point, you're basically early adulthood, and you're already really seeing, okay, I want my brother to have as positive, not that your parents weren't involved, right? But you're taking it on yourself too. I want to set an example of what, like, we should be,
right?
You're already setting that tone. So what was early adulthood like?
Yeah, early adulthood, besides helping raise my brother, there was a point where my aunt had asked me to take on her son, who was 16.
Okay.
And at the time I was...
So your cousin.
My cousin.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was 20... Well, I think we were 10 years apart, so... He was 15. I was 25. And so he came and lived with us for a year. And so I thought, well, I'm gonna introduce him to the things that I was already involved in, and that's the choir at St. Joachim's and youth group. And he was going to San Joaquin Memorial. So he'd take the bus, which dropped him off at St. Joachim's Church. Okay. And I was working there at the church. I was the director of religious education.
Okay.
And he would just walk over to the office and stay with me until I was done with work. And then later on, we'd go back into town and do youth group. And he was doing pretty well until maybe towards the end of that 1 year, something clicked, and he decided he didn't want to follow my rules anymore. So I told him, I said, okay, if you can't follow my rules, then you can't be here. And so he went back home. Yeah. So he's actually now in Texas. He lives like 30 minutes from my dad.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What did he end up, like, what line of work?
He's, he what would you call him? Like a tile man.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he also does like
trade. He's doing like trade work.
Yeah, trade work. Yeah. So he does like, the wood trims, and
he's not hurting for work. That's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think he's doing pretty good. I actually stopped him when I was working in Fresno back in
CHP
06, 07. Yeah. Yeah. I was out in the Riverdale area and running radar, and I see this car. He was like 80 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I go. So I flip around on him, and he ditched to the right real quick, trying to avoid me, because out there on 41 you have those side streets.
Yeah.
But I saw him, and he got stuck at the stop sign because there's too many cars. So I pull him behind. I still can't see him. I don't know who he is.
Yeah.
I didn't run the plate or anything. And
this is like your 20th stop for the day.
Yeah, probably. Okay, put that right on that car. So he starts to go, and I turn on my lights, and he pulls over, and I'm walking up, and then in the right side mirror, I see his wife.
Okay.
I'm like, man, she looks familiar.
Yeah.
I'm like, where do I know her from? And then I look in, and then I see my cousin.
Nice.
Hey, Andrew, how's it going? He goes, oh, hey, Jason. He was like real nervous, real shaky. And I go, I didn't even tell him why I stopped him at that point. His family, I'm not going to write him a ticket. So,
wait, you've always told me that you're going to write me a ticket if you ever get me.
Yeah, but we're family by marriage.
By blood.
No, not blood.
Okay. I see how it works.
Just don't do it wrong when I'm working, and you'll be all right. You won't get one from me. So, as we're chatting, just about whatever, I think they were coming from the lake or something. He got his license, and he is handing it to me.
Okay.
I didn't ask for it.
Yeah.
But his license was just shaking.
Ooh. Yeah.
And I go, I don't want that.
Yeah.
He goes, oh, you don't? I go, well, no, not unless you want a ticket. He goes, oh, no. So he put it back in his wallet. And I go, hey, man, just, good to see you. All right, drive safe, man. Watch the traffic before you get back to the lane. Yeah.
Slow it down, man.
Slow down, yeah, slow down.
What's the rush, man?
Right, yeah. And then, so that was kind of interesting, kind of seeing that side, because I wasn't, I think I was in the application process when I was taking care of him.
Gotcha.
I had just started that process. It took almost 2 years. It was like 23 months before when I applied to the Highway Patrol before I got to the academy.
Gotcha.
So it was neat to
bump into him.
Bump in, yeah. That was the only time. Yeah.
That's awesome. So let's back up because we're skipping over some stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if you're applying for CHP, we've We've skipped over some pretty pivotal things here.
Oh, yeah.
So when...
Let me just say this. When I was growing up, my parents' neighbor was a highway patrolman, and he had a patrol car at his house all the time. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I want to do that. Yeah. Park a patrol car at my house.
Nice.
No. not so much that. But I want to...
That's cool.
Yeah, that is so cool. And I, as a young guy, I would want to... I talked to him all the time. When he was out, I would always talk to him about the highway patrol and see him. My mom, on the other hand, did not want me to join the highway patrol. She thought that people were going to wait for me, in particular, on overpasses with rifles and shoot me as I drove by.
Where was she getting that from?
I don't know. Same place as where the floor of the bathroom was going to fall out. I don't know.
There's no rational reason, just this, image.
Yeah.
Although, she, in fairness to her, in defense of her,
that's more realistic.
Well, but like, especially of late. I mean, not that your role is necessarily in that, but it's like, to exactly what you mentioned. It's like, dude, law enforcement is under so much pressure across the nation, not just here.
Exactly.
And
the reason why in 1.5 years I'm going to be done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but so when I wanted to join the highway patrol, because I told my parents what I wanted to do, my mom was very resistant in me doing that, and that was one of the reasons why she told me. So out of respect for her, I said, okay, well, maybe I'll do something else. What do you think about me being a forest ranger? Oh, yeah, that's much better. Much better, encountering strangers in the woods that also have guns all by myself.
Yeah, exactly.
Days for your backup to arrive.
I actually laughed because I forget who I was chatting with recently, but like they were talking about, oh, dude, game warden would be like legit, and I'm like, are you for real right now? Like. Yeah. You're literally stopping people, poachers, by the way, that are really good hunters.
Right.
And being like, yeah, you can't do that. And also, by the way,
I'm going to take your gun.
Yeah. And also, by the way, you're typically the one that's like, you're the first line of defense tripping over like marijuana grows.
Right.
Like legitimately, because you're the one that's way out deep in where, like Timbuktu, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, why is there all this irrigation here?
And why do I have the munchies?
It's very fragrant out here.
Right. So I started going to Reedley Junior College because they have a forestry program out there.
Gotcha.
And I was driving from Madera to Reedley, which...
That's not a small track.
No, it's not. Yeah. And I found somebody who also lived near me in Madera, and we would carpool together to make it more manageable. Okay. And, that was when gas prices were like
$1.
89 cents a gallon. That's crazy.
Say, so insane.
Yeah, so insane.
$4 ago.
Yeah. Right, $4 ago. Yeah. But... during that time, those classes I was taking, I was measuring eucalyptus trees. Well, I'm highly allergic to eucalyptus. And so
wait, did you know this before you were measuring?
I did. I did. And they're okay if they don't disturb me.
Wait, so they get up and they walk towards you? Or,
they start waving their pollen at me. then it's bad. Like the whites of my eyes will swell up. It's ugly. But I realize as I'm measuring this tree, I don't want to do this. Yeah. This is not me. This is not what I want to do. I will not be happy.
Yeah.
And so I told my parents, and we had gone to Madera Fair, and CHP had a booth at the fair. And we were walking by, and I didn't approach the booth at all, but I was eyeballing them, side-eyeing them. And my mom, she says, are you still interested in doing that? And I said, yes, I am. She said, well, why don't you go check it out? I said, okay. I went right over. I said, do you have an application? They said, yes, here you go. I filled it out right there.
Nice.
And it was a Scantron application. It was kind of weird.
A, B, D, E, C.
It was JASON. It was your name, your birth date, your driver's license number. That was it. And then they put you in the system.
Come on, Jason. You're supposed to lie.
E, all of the above, right? No. It's always all of the above. If that's an option.
C.
If you don't know, it's C. If it's all of the above, then choose all of the above. But so I applied right then and there. I gave them back the Scantron, and this was the very first time I applied, because I applied twice.
Ah, okay.
And while I was waiting to hear back from the state that my application was accepted and you're going to take tests, I think it was Father Brian Crawford from the Oblates of St. Joseph invited me on a vocations retreat weekend up in Loomis.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, yeah, sure, I'll go. And something hit me on that retreat. It was, I know it was the Holy Spirit calling me to be part of that at that point in my life. And so I just threw everything off the burner, and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And so what I did, I applied for the Oblates of St. Joseph. And in the meantime, Father Brian was asking me if I would take van loads of other young men who were wanting to participate in one of those retreats up to Loomis. And I said, sure. So I would, maybe once a month, it seemed like, that I was driving people from Madeira up there. And it was a good reason for me to be there, because you've been there, and there's something about the atmosphere at the Mount.
It's beautiful.
It just is so calming, and it really offers a great prayerful experience. And so when I had opportunities to go to the seminary for the weekend, then I took it up. I said, yes, I'll do it. And so I started going to daily Mass in Madeira, and which was awesome in itself. And eventually I got up to the Mount as a seminarian. And after the first semester, I became a postulant, moved down to Oxnard.
Okay.
Nothing like Loomis. One of the worst smells that I've ever smelled came from Oxnard. To this day, I don't know what it was. It's like fish fertilizer or something. I don't know. It was absolutely, I don't gag very much, but
you're in the constant living state of gagging.
Yes, for sure. And so after...
For clarity, for the listener, what Jason's referring to is the Mount St. Joseph location in Loomis is I forget how many acres, but it's very removed. It is remote, and there's a ton of work to do around there. But you're also living in community with many men, and it's awesome. Like, you're not distracted in that environment. But then to go from a Mount St. Joseph to an Oxnard, which is literally a house, beautiful early turn of the century house that was converted into basically a community house.
House of formation.
Yeah, house of formation, but it's literally smack dab in the city. So going from Mount St. Joseph to Oxnard is like a,
So 2 blocks away was the police station, 3 blocks the other way was the ambulance, and then maybe 6 blocks was the airport. Yeah. So we got all kinds of noises through there, and it was not. It wasn't as the opportunity wasn't there for that deep prayer without those kind of distractions. It was kind of difficult. But I attended Oxnard Junior College when I was there the first time, and actually when I started the seminary, that's where we met.
Yes,
the first time. Yeah. And you were just a high schooler.
Yeah, I was a freshman.
A freshman, yes.
That'll come up in my upcoming episode.
That's awesome.
TBD.
Oh, nice. Very good. And after that first year of seminary, I went back to Loomis and entered the novitiate. And the novitiate years, I always referred to it as spiritual boot camp. Mm-hmm. So it was 365 days where we learned a deep prayer life. We learned about the founder of the Oblates of St. Joseph Morello, and his charism. Learned Spanish during that year because what we did, they brought up novices from Mexico up to Loomis to be part of that novitiate. And all the odd days of the month, we did everything in Spanish. So we prayed, we had our classes, we watched the news in Spanish, we had conversations in Spanish.
Everything. You did not.
Everything.
Yeah, you did not deviate.
On the even days, I was still speaking Spanish because the Mexican novices did not speak English. And I spoke, Spanish to have conversations. But so I used Spanish quite a bit for that year.
Yeah.
But everything else was in English. Our classes, our prayer, the news.
Yeah.
Yeah, I learned the Pequeña Traviesa, the telenovela song, because that always came on right before the news. So we'd all sing it together.
Can you sing it?
Si tal vez pudieras comprender. And he knows. Yeah.
I love
it.
Right. Wow. Again, the fact that you can freaking just recall it like that.
We sang it every day, every odd day, I should say.
So for 180 some odd days.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. And then, so after that novitiate year, I went back down to Oxnard and started at St. John's Seminary College, and with philosophy and theology as my major and minor, and. So down there for a year, it was pretty awesome. Like the mass that the seminarians would put together, they had all kinds of instruments, and that was really my first experience. Besides, what is the LA Congress?
The LA Congress.
Yeah, because I was there, I think twice. I went, and then after that, I would never go back. But
bless your soul.
Jason, do tell why.
It was different.
Did the LA Congress come up in another episode?
Yes.
It did.
Yes, it did.
Was it Matt's episode?
No,
trying to remember.
because I think I was here for it.
Okay.
It wasn't yours, Rick?
It might
Was
have
it
been mine.
yours? Okay.
I think it was yours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was the last time I went to LA Congress was actually when Katie and I made it official to start dating.
Okay.
But anyway, I digress.
Yeah.
After I went back to Oxnard, and they had like the violins and the piano. Just the music in itself was
Beautiful.
Very beautiful, and really instrumental in, for lack of a better word, to help you enter into a really
it
neat
still
prayer.
carried a sacredness to it.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't anything like LA Congress.
It wasn't
The total
it
opposite.
wasn't boomer and folksy.
Right.
Yeah. I'm doing a mad dash glare over at Rick. Rick's infamous tagline. Hashtag boomhane.
No. I'm not on the hot seat here. We don't need it.
Sorry. Okay.
So during that year, I taught catechism at the church St. Clair's, which was just a block away from the house.
Okay.
And then it was the summer I was assigned to Madeira, to St. Joachim's. And it was already during that.
So assigned, meaning you had taken your first vows already.
After the novitiate, I took my first vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. When you hear of somebody taking those vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience, the first thing is, oh, you're a young man, chastity's probably got to be the hardest thing for you.
Yeah.
It actually is not.
No.
It's obedience.
Yep.
And especially when you're a grown-ass adult, and you got this other adult telling you what you can and cannot do.
Yeah.
that was where I struggled with a lot. And
that's a flawed. That's typically, especially living in community, that you know very intimately.
yes.
Right, like there's a real test, and Father Michael actually has mentioned this in homilies. He's mentioned the same thing. He's like, a lot of people come up to me and think, "Oh man, you're young, you're so young, you must struggle with chastity all the time." And he's like, "No, it's the obedience.
Yeah.
It's actually saying, I trust your leadership, my bishop, right? Because there's a lot of things where it's like, that's not the way I would do it, and Jesus is going, that's not what I asked you."
Right. But there's obedience in everything, right?
Yes,
Even in marriage, there's obedience.
Absolutely.
And I actually can embrace obedience in marriage a lot better. It's a different type of obedience.
Do you think the religious life helped you with that?
I think so.
Okay.
I think it did. But I was really struggling. Like I truly felt called to have a family.
Yeah.
And that was my really a big distraction for me in the seminary, was constantly thinking about, I'm missing out on having this unconditional love for these little ones.
Yeah.
And so I did some discernment, and that's when I discerned that the religious life, priesthood, was not for me.
Yeah.
And I left. I have a funny story, though, talking about community. While I was still assigned to St. Joachim's and before my vows expired, Father Lupe, he was probably in his 70s at the time, would have been a professional tennis player had he not become a priest.
I literally, right when you were saying that, I was like, he was freaking legit tennis player.
Father Steve Peterson and I, that summer, we were both brothers at the time. We went to a local tennis court to play Father Lupe tennis. And he tells us, you two play the single line on my side, I'll play the doubles on your side. And I don't know, about halfway through, he goes, okay, you could play the doubles. Because he was just kicking our butts.
Railing.
And we're good tennis players.
Yeah.
But it didn't matter. He was barely sweating, and we couldn't breathe. He was so good. But he took me to the jail to do some jail ministry.
Okay.
And before we go in, he goes, oh, Jason, maybe you'll see someone you know. And I said, oh, maybe, Father. And we walk in, and sure enough, I see the kid that used to bully me when I was a kid. And we're going down the line, and I go, hey, Ralph. And he goes, Father Lupe goes, see? I told you. Like, oh, Father, yeah, if you only knew. I told him later that he bullied me. But he allowed me to use his car, and I took his car out to my parents' house.
Okay.
And when I pulled into the driveway, I think I may have stopped suddenly, like quicker than normal, and I heard something clink in the back. And so I look in the back seat, and I see like this handle. And so I reach down there and I pull it out. It's a frying pan with eggs and bacon. And I'm like, well, this is not mine. And I go back to the rectory and I go, Father Lupe, I found a frying pan with eggs and bacon in it. I was wondering where that went. Just love it. Those kind of things were really fun.
Yes.
I enjoyed that. It's going back to the obedience.
Yeah.
It really struggled. So I decided not to renew my vows and left the seminary. And after I left the seminary, I needed to get a job. So my sister, who worked at the women's prison, said, hey, they're hiring student assistants. You just have to be enrolled in school.
Nice.
So I enrolled in the community college so I could get a job and ended up working for prison industry authorities. I did 8 months there at the women's prison. After that, I couldn't do it any longer.
Why? What was the What was the reason? Or what were the reasons?
The cat calls I didn't really like.
That didn't get you going?
No. No. And just the harsh. I mean, I was offered to meet somebody after they got out of prison in Stockton, and I told her, well, don't leave without me. And she might still be there. I don't know.
Well, she's probably back.
She's probably
if she
back,
did leave, she's probably back.
She's probably back. But the other aspect was like the correctional officers and how they treated the inmates.
Yep.
And mind you, they've all done something and was convicted of something bad.
Yeah.
Right. So that's why they're there. But the way they just demean them, I didn't like it at all.
Sure.
Yeah. So
they're still a person.
they are. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though they've made
Poor choices. Right. So at that time, Father Larry Toschi, Oblate of St. Joseph in Madeira at St. Joachim's.
Awesome priest.
Yes, he married Katie and I.
Yep.
He offered me a job as the director of religious education.
Okay.
Because the other director, she quit suddenly, so he needed to fill that position.
Gotcha.
And I told him, well, I am in the application process to join the Highway Patrol. Was very upfront, and he goes, that's okay, I just need somebody now.
Nice.
And I said, okay, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Which was great, because then I got paroled from the prison. And
is that what they call it, paroled, or are you just joking?
That's what it felt like. Yeah, I was so happy to get out of there.
Freedom!
Yes. Yeah, but became the director of religious education.
Okay.
And one day there was a meeting at the diocese for all the directors of religious education and youth ministers.
Awesome.
So I went to that.
That was under Bishop Steinbach at that point?
Yeah. Yes, it was. And so at this meeting, my plan was at lunchtime, I'm going to just cut out, get back to work, because there was a lot of work to be done. We had about 1,500 kids in the program. And so
wow.
I just needed to get back.
That is awesome. I didn't realize that there were that many.
Yeah, there was a lot.
That is awesome.
And there's probably a whole lot more now.
Yeah.
And that's just the first communion. That wasn't confirmation.
Yeah.
I didn't do confirmation, just first communion.
Yeah.
And then in walks this young lady. And I'm like, oh, I know her. And I know her because some years prior, right before I went into the seminary, and she went to University of San Diego, we were in a film together, and not that kind of film, Rick. It was a vocation.
Wait, why did Rick get that call?
Because he was looking at me. So
I was still stuck on the cat call, so my mind went places.
So he. Where was I? Lost my train of thought. I got distracted.
In walked
So the video we were in, there was a gentleman who wrote a book called Life Works, Rick Sarkeesian.
Yes. Okay.
And with that book, he made a video companion. And in the video companion, he had hikers on their journey looking for God's call, right? And searching out God to hear his call. So Katie and me and then 3 other people were in this video as the hikers on this journey.
Gotcha.
So pretty amazing. After I see Katie now at this meeting, I go home and I go, Mom, guess who I saw?
Nice.
And I pulled out the video, and on the back of the...
That's her.
the VHS, yeah, the VHS tape is a picture of all 5 of us on the cliff.
Yeah.
And Katie and I have our arms around each other, pointing in one direction, and the other 3 are just doing their own little thing. It was interesting that I don't even remember like at that moment, because I was going to the seminary, she was going to college, and
it was a completely chaste and like
innocent.
You know, you guys were enjoying life.
But the 2 of us are there together when the others didn't even have their arms around each other, right? So just the 2 of us.
That's interesting.
Very, very cool, I think. And
was the photographer like canning that, or did they just take like photos of you guys doing different?
Yeah, they said just do whatever.
Nice, and that's what ended up making it. Yeah, that's super cool.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that was pretty neat. And then now I see Katie again at this meeting, and I think we had a break, and she comes up to me. She's probably going to kill me because if I share this, but I'm going to. I'm a black belt.
But you don't hit women.
No, I don't. But I could block. She has like a do-rag on, and she comes up to me and she goes, puts out her hand to shake my hand, and she goes, "Hi, Mr. Bettini." And I go, "Katie." And I gave her a hug.
Okay.
And she goes, "Oh, I haven't showered today." And I go, "I didn't notice." I didn't notice. She had was woken up by the youth minister who was needing to take a plane ride somewhere, so she took her to the airport. And
Awesome.
then in the meantime, she said, "Katie, you need to go to this meeting because I can't be there."
Oh, so she was like her proxy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because she was one of the youth ministers at St. Anthony's.
Gotcha.
And so if it wasn't for that, we probably would have never met up again.
Yeah.
So then as I was leaving, because, I was going to leave at lunchtime, but now I was like, oh, Katie's here, and, you feel a little something.
I'm digging this chick.
Yeah. Digging. So I stayed for lunch.
Yeah.
And so she sat at my right,
Nice.
and we were at the end of the table, and then on my left are all these other DREs that are like older women who are just flabbergasted at this young man as a DRE, and they just kept asking questions and chatting with me. And then Katie on her right were a bunch of nuns, and they wanted her to come see Weekend. Right? Yeah. So we didn't even get to visit really at lunch. And so then as the session started again, I waved goodbye from a distance because where we were sitting, it was a weird setup. So I leave the room, and she chased me down.
Nice.
Well, she had to use the restroom. But she chased me down.
But she used the restroom as the excuse for it.
Yes. And she goes, "Are you leaving?" And I said, "Yes, I have to get back to work."
Yeah.
She goes, okay, well, I just, she had just decided not to do this Jesuit volunteer program because they were
They're Jesuits.
Too left. Yeah. They were too left.
Was that too much?
She was they were too left for her right. We'll just say that.
They're Jesuits.
Yes. So
He said that so affectionately. They're Jesuits. What do you expect?
She decided not to.
Can anything good come from the
Father Mitch Pacwa.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jay.
So she left their program, decided that she was going to do something else. And so then she got a job at St. Anthony's as a youth minister. But she's telling me, she goes, everybody I know or hang out with are like in youth group or they're married. Mm-hmm. I go, here, do you have a phone number? And let me give you my number. So I gave her 9 numbers. I don't even know what numbers. My neighbor's number. I don't know. My grandma's number. It's like,
if you can't reach me here, then you call this one. And if you can't reach me there, you call this one. You're going deep on the playbook.
Right. I was really shy. Like right now I'm not shy because of life experience, but at the time I was very shy.
Yeah.
And never really dated. I think I dated one girl for 6 hours because she needed a date for the Harvest Festival. So, I mean, that's pretty much.
It was a relationship of utility.
I think so.
And that was a bad breakup.
Yeah, right. So then I left, and it probably was a couple weeks before I called her.
Yeah.
And she was just wondering, is this guy ever going to call me?
Yeah.
Mind you, not only was I nervous, but I was also very busy.
Sure.
At work.
You're running a full program. Yeah.
Yeah. So I called her up, and the guise of talking about youth ministry. Mm-hmm. because I was helping out with the youth group, even though it wasn't my responsibility. I just saw that it needed some attention to build it up. And what St. Anthony's was doing with theirs, I really liked. And so I was trying to emulate that at St. Joachim's. Mm-hmm. So we... say hello.
I think they think that we're hiding in the bushes.
I think that helicopter has made an appearance in every episode.
I think you're right.
They're listening right now.
Let them listen.
Yeah, let them listen. They need it.
They need it.
Yeah. But so I started asking her questions about youth ministry and what she's doing, and then somehow I found enough courage to invite her to come see my brother and sister's dance. So, like,
okay,
it was weird. I mean, it's awkward. Like, probably not something that anybody else would do.
but you were trying to also you were slow playing.
I was trying to make it friendly, right?
It's like
comfortable for her. Oh, there's going to be other people around.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's good. And
you're shy. Right,
yes,
so
I'm shy.
You're also going, I don't know if I'm ready to ask you out on a date. You know?
Yeah. And she said yes.
Okay, cool.
So that was pretty nice. And so we go to this dance recital, and now she meets my sisters.
Okay.
And they are dressed in gang attire. It's not their normal attire, but it is gang attire because that's what they're dressed as for their dance routine, right? And she goes, "Oh my God! Like if I break this guy's heart, these girls are going to kill me." I mean, that was her impression.
Legitimately,
of my sisters, yeah. And but they were nice to her. Yeah. And after that, we just started doing other things. She worked at the Holy Child. Mm-hmm. And did she work there? Yes, she did.
She worked at the Holy Child?
She did. In fact, Carol Bruni, I don't know if you know Carol Bruni or not, she would come into the Holy Child quite a bit. And before we saw each other, she told Katie, "I have this nice young man I want you to meet." Because my mom used to work for her.
Okay.
And hung wallpaper, painted some rooms.
Gotcha.
Her husband's dentist office and all that. So
yeah.
And then my aunt went into the Holy Child, bought a gift, and had it wrapped. And so Katie was wrapping this gift, and not a very good wrapper. But my aunt then tells me, I have this...
It must run in the family.
I could wrap a present. I just can't wrap.
This is the thing. Jamie admits it. I'm not she will not be angry at all. Anyway, sorry. I'll tell you the story when you're finished with yours. Yeah.
So then my aunt sees Katie and sees how cute she is and great personality. And so she tells me, "There's this nice young lady I want you to meet." Yeah. And... so when Carol Bruni told Katie who I was, and she goes, "Oh, no, he's going to be a priest." "Oh, no, he left the seminary and he's looking for a wife." So that was a really big plus for...
He left the seminary, he's looking for a wife.
Right.
Doesn't matter who. He's just looking for a wife.
To be married, yeah. So anyway, we ended up meeting at the meeting and then started dating, and then from there we got engaged probably 3 months into dating.
Okay.
We just knew that God meant for us to be together. Mm-hmm. And we were engaged for about a year before we actually tied the knot.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize that it was 3 months.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. So, so Jamie, when she was working at the Holy Child, there was, so right around this time of year, right before Advent would kick off, or maybe even like end of October, early November, we'd have a bunch of people coming in, buying and getting ready for, Christmas gifts. And one day this woman comes, she buys, I forget what it was exactly, but it was like a bigger box. It must have been like a statue or a crucifix or something, but it's in a box, right? So Jamie puts it in the box, and then the woman's like, "Hey, can you can you wrap it? It would be great if you could just wrap it so that it's ready to go, and then I don't have to worry about that. And Jamie's like, yeah, totally. So she starts to wrap, and she gets I think she finishes it. And the woman looks at her and she's like, you know what, honey, just keep doing what you're doing. something to that effect, where she just basically was like, I'm going to have to redo this.
Thanks anyway.
That's awesome. Okay, so you guys get engaged 3 months, then it's a year-long engagement. You get married. What happens after that? It was a year
long because during that time, probably 3 months into the engagement, I went to the CHP Academy.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So Katie got to plan everything, and nice. I just got to show up.
Which is kind of nice, actually.
It was really nice. Yeah. And then after I graduated from the academy, I got assigned to Napa.
Okay.
Wine country. Mm-hmm. Funny thing is, we never went wine tasting.
Oh, man.
Yeah. We just had winemaking friends.
Nice.
And we tasted their wine at their houses, so it was really nice.
That's awesome.
But so in Napa, we were there, little apartment, 1-bedroom apartment, and she got a job working at Justin Siena High School, which is a Catholic high school in Napa.
Yeah.
And from there, she met one of the teachers who was renting a house downtown Napa, and he and his wife were going to leave the house because they built a house, but they were still in a lease agreement, and they just had to find somebody to really come in so they could be free of any additional charges. Mm. And so they asked us, and it was like, well, we had a 6-month lease on our apartment, and we said, yeah, let's get into a house. It'll be much better. And so we ended up moving across town to a nice little house.
Nice.
But, it was pretty cool. And then that was 3 minutes from the office.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
It was really nice.
Okay. So, 5 kids.
First kid, Katie did not want to have a baby shower.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so 1 week prior to the due date, my sister says, you're coming to Madera. I'm throwing you a baby shower, whether you like it or not. So we said, all right, well, before we leave, let's get a tour of the hospital so we can know where to go when we have to use it.
Yeah.
So we tour the hospital, get on the road, get to Madera. That night, her water breaks.
Wow. Okay.
So she wakes me up. My water broke. Really? Yes. Call the doctor. I go, okay. So I call the doctor. The doctor says, all right, if the contractions are so many minutes apart, find a hospital. But if you want to come back to Napa, then by all means go ahead, and we'll wait for you. Yeah. So I wake up my sister. Sorry, we're not going to be at the baby shower tomorrow. Water broke. We're going back to Napa. What? Okay. Told my parents. We're going back to Napa. And generally, from Madera to Napa, it's about a 3-hour drive. 2 in the morning, it only takes about 2 hours and 15 minutes with a stop in Turlock for coffee and a potty break.
Nice.
Yeah, I was impressed with myself.
Jason put the Dwight light on top of the gun.
Yeah, and then we get back to the house, and now Katie wants to take a shower, shave her legs, do the laundry, paint the house. I mean, everything.
But have a baby.
Yeah, and I'm just like, can we go? Like,
yeah, what's going on?
What, yeah, I know something's happening. We should probably be at the hospital.
Yeah.
And she goes, okay, let's go. So she had her bag, and we're leaving, and we're driving by Albertsons. She goes, oh, no, stop here. Where? Albertsons? Yes. We need to get popsicles.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, okay. Why is that? Well, the nurses say it's good for when you're in labor. You have, like, something cold, and it's nice, right?
Okay.
We never had one popsicle. I think the nurses just say that so they have something to eat after we were done, right?
The popsicles were for you.
Yeah. So we get to the hospital, and I'm cracking jokes, right? And Katie's laughing, and she goes, "You can't made me laugh, like, because it was painful for her to laugh, but she was still laughing. And we get to the hospital, and everyone's there was like, "Oh, we thought you stopped at a hospital on the way. We thought you were having a baby and didn't make it."
Oh,
it was like, "Oh no, we were doing laundry and showering and all that fun stuff." So we had our first son, a son, Gabriel, at 1:54 on March 7th, 2003.
Nice.
And it was, the emotions was just amazing.
Yeah.
To have your firstborn son, right?
Yeah.
We didn't know what we were having, what gender. So when the doctor said it's a boy, the waterworks just started,
Yeah.
So I remember going out to the waiting room, and my parents were there. I think Amy and Laz were there too.
Nice.
Our in-laws.
Yeah.
And just crying with tears of joy.
Yeah.
So he was born at Queen of the Valley, there in Napa. Then we got pregnant with Sienna, and I think she was about 8 months pregnant. We decided to move back to Fresno to be closer to home, and so we stayed in Fresno for I think about 3 years. So Sienna was born, Dominic was born at that time, and then I was at the Traffic Management Center doing the traffic reports for the Highway Patrol for Channel 30, and wished Sienna a happy birthday on one of my traffic reports, and the news director didn't like it, so she ratted me out to my captain, and he kicked me out of there. So
I didn't realize you were doing the reports. That's cool.
Yeah, so I did that for a year and a half.
That's fun.
And then we moved up north.
Gosh. Freaking directors, man.
I know.
She probably didn't have any kids.
No, she didn't. The weatherman could dress up as Mickey Mouse and do the weather, but I can't say happy birthday to my daughter, but that's just another story. My sergeant gave me the bad news, I guess. I don't know what you want to call it. But he says, well, I got some bad news. You can't do the traffic reports anymore. I said, why? He goes, for wishing your daughter a happy birthday on TV. And I said, oh, had I known it would take that, I would have done it a long time ago.
Nice. You're like, I didn't want to do this anyways.
Not that I didn't want to do it, but I knew that he didn't agree with that decision. And it was hard for him to tell me.
Gotcha.
Because he liked me.
Yeah.
And I softened the blow for him. And
Perfect.
so he felt better. And he goes, go ahead and put in your request to transfer wherever you want.
Gotcha.
So I go, okay. So Oakhurst was my first choice. Nice. No, Chowchilla was my first choice. Okay. Oakhurst my second, Madera. And I did not want to go back to Fresno.
Yeah.
And so they laughed at my request because I was pretty junior on the patrol and really couldn't get anywhere there.
Yeah.
So he goes, I know you want to go to like the Sacramento area, so you like literally anywhere you want to go. I said, oh, okay. So then I put in for Auburn, which was also a laugh. Yeah. East Sacramento, North Sacramento, and South Sacramento. And they
ended up in West.
Yeah, right. They didn't even have a West, but they made me start one. So I went to North Sacramento, and then we moved to Roseville, and then eventually bought a house in Loomis. And we were up in that area for a total of 10 years before we decided to come back to this area, right before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And when we came back, it was nice being near family during COVID. Mm-hmm. I think it would have been a lot harder not having our family nearby during that time. So
that's when you and I connected on
when we came back.
Yeah.
For that other program that we don't talk about.
The program that will not be named.
Right.
Does not deserve the recognition.
No.
Where can people find you? And don't use me as your go-to. Everyone's like, just call Eli. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to be. Give me some way of directing people to finding you.
My phone number is 867-5309. No, I am on Facebook,
Okay.
X, Instagram.
Nice.
Instagram.
Fancy.
Yeah. Instagram, I'm frequenting it more.
Okay.
I've always had it. I just never really got on there, but I like it more now than like Facebook. I don't really care for Facebook. It's my name, Jason Bettini, at Facebook, but it's Jasone B on Instagram.
By the way, I like that one on Instagram.
Jasone B.
Yeah.
And that's on Instagram. I think X, I think it might be Jason-Bettini. I don't really know. I don't get on there hardly at all.
Yeah. But they can find you by just searching Jason Bettini, and eventually they'll figure it out.
Yeah, they should find me there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Having this opportunity to share my life with others, I think it's pretty amazing. I do give you a lot of kudos, Eli, for developing this. I think it's like getting back to old school, putting down the technology, and just having real life conversations with people.
Yeah.
Since I started listening to the podcast, I think I may have told you, I was like, I need to meet Manny.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that Manny showed up tonight, so I was able to meet him. But it's a great way to really support one another in our faith journey, and because we all have a story. It's all different. Like I told the boys at the troop meeting last night about Blessed Carlo Acutis. That we are all born original, but we die photocopies. And we shouldn't be dying photocopies. We need to figure out what God is calling us to and work hard to achieve that.
Yeah.
Because he wants us to be a certain person. He doesn't want me to be Eli. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want me to be Manny or Rick. He wants me to be Jason or Jasone B. But and that's what I need to strive for, is to be who God wants me to be.
Yeah.
And to try and recognize that.
Yeah.
And by talking with other good faith-filled men, I think it's a great way to be able to recognize that.
Yeah.
See it.
Yeah. Thank you.
I do thank you for this opportunity.
No, thank you for being open and saying yes. I think it's not putting pressure on others, but it's interesting to me. You mentioned it, right? Like people kind of go, this is so common. Like yesterday, I was talking with Corey. I was like, hey, would you ever want to be on the podcast? And he's like, I don't really have nothing. My life isn't. And I'm like, that's the biggest amount of BS ever.
Right.
I was like, that's the problem, is like we're all, especially us as men, is we're all stuck in this, like, I don't have much to share. It's like, no, you do. You just haven't spent time on it to think about the ways that God have moved. Yeah, maybe you haven't had these crazy, like Paul conversions or Manny conversions, or take your pick, right? Like you haven't had these, like epic, right? In quotes, epic stories. But the reality is that God's moving in our life always, whether we believe in him or not. He's there.
Absolutely.
And if we don't take time to do this, right, to have conversations or to reflect, right? Like in order for you to show up, we had to send you like somewhat, just for the listener, this shouldn't come as a shock at this point, but there's like a list of questions so that Jason isn't showing up cold turkey and trying to answer questions that he hasn't really actually thought through. Mm-hmm. But a lot of what we talked about hasn't been on that list of questions. Right? Like it's the conversation's gone where Jason wanted it to go, or where our jokes have gone, or where like something was interesting and we kept going down that rabbit hole. But most importantly, it's the fact that we're trying to encourage men, families, people of God, community, right? Like Manny and Rick and I have had this conversation consistently now for how long, guys?
Months.
Yeah, months. Like now that they're on board and thanks be to God, you guys are on like this team. Like a lot of this wouldn't be here without them, right? Mm-hmm. I had the vision, but it's not mine. I'm going to sincerely say that. It's not mine. It's meant to be shared. It's meant for you, Jason. It's meant for everyone in our community. And not, I need to say this. I joke about the 3 million or the 5 million. The reality is that it's the principle of subsidiarity. I don't have control over what happens 5 houses down. I have control over my family, and I have control over this, and I have influence over all of you here around this fire, right? The goal, though, is that if we can impact OLPH and Holy Spirit and maybe change hearts and convert hearts by just sharing life and the way that grace, or maybe the way that dysfunction has happened in our life, and the way that we've moved through that, right? The way that God has given us grace to be able to stand back up, dust ourselves off, and move forward. We'll encourage another man, another woman, another person of faith to go, okay, if he can do it, then I can do it, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it doesn't have to be daunting, because I mean, some people are like, well, 4 hours, I don't know if I can go that long. These things are free. They can just go. They can go an hour. Your dad's went, what, an hour, 20 minutes?
It was an hour. Yeah, hour 15. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of want to make an appeal while we're on this subject. I kind of feel led to do this. But if you're listening to this and you're and that encouraged you and you're thinking, man, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to be on this show. Shoot us an email, circaignem@gmail.com. And we would be happy to consider having you on the show.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then we also need donors. I'm going to do a shameless plug right now. We need people. This isn't, we're doing this out of our own blood, sweat, and tears. We don't get paid for this. And quite frankly, I would love to do this full time. Like that, this really has become a big passion of mine, but we can't do it without support. So if you feel called, if you feel, compelled, please reach out. Jason mentioned earlier First Fruits. That is going to be an apparel line. More than anything, it's a mission. It's a call to action to primarily men, but everyone. I'm praying for everyone's wives, not just the men here. And really, that's going to kind of be the talking point, right? Wearing and putting on armor of God, so to speak, to then be able to witness to people in a non-confrontational way. So look out for that. We have shirts and hats rolling out pretty soon here. We got to make some final details, and decisions, but we're pretty darn close. So.
And we'll ask for your prayers as well.
Yes.
Even if you can't donate. Even if you are going to, God leads you to donate in some way. But even if you can't, just keep us in prayer.
Yep.
The Circa Ignem family.
That's the most important thing. So, again, Jason, thank you.
Yes, thank you again.
Let's close in prayer. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Lord, we thank you for the gift of Jason's life. We thank you for the originalness, the originality that you've hardwired into him, and then the way that you've shaped and molded him through shared life experiences and through trials, through greatness. We just ask that that the way that he shared his life with us here around a fire, like the road to Emmaus, would spread to those that listen and truly warm their heart, truly encourage them to once again dust off, pick up their cross and follow you. That they would look at either their spouse or their soulmate or their friend or their men that they have in their own lives and say, we're not our hearts burning within us, as they listen to Jason's story. We ask that you would just continue to protect this apostolate, that you would continue to guide us and keep us steadfast in serving you and serving the people of God within our own communities. We ask this through the intercession of our Mother Mary, through the intercession of Saint Joseph, and most especially through your most sacred heart. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.